become a 45-minute drive. And here I am on the side of the road, somewhere off the Bell Parkway. No idea which exit I just got off of, but we're going to try to do this and make this as meaningful as we can under the circumstance. Shabbat's early, so I'm trying to get back home. So anyway, this week's parasha is Parshat Miketz. And it's one of those Torah readings that you could just read by and lose the depth of the nuances that are expressed in the actual words in this week's parsha. There's a couple of ideas that I want to share with you today that I find very meaningful. Well, number one is Yosef as a character, as a one of the tribes, is remarkable. He is someone who, if you and I were put into his circumstances, we'd cry every single day. Imagine waking up one day and your brothers, they sell you. They put you on a slave trade. They make money off you. They don't send you away to like a boarding school. They don't send you away to some, far away distant land. Go visit a relative and don't come back. They literally sell you. Okay, he was the apple of his father's eye. He had all the comfort, all the luxury. He was getting all these cool clothing from his dad. His father was taking care of him. He had all these prospects. And what ends up happening? He's thrown into a pit. He's thrown into a pit. And he's taken from one pit and thrown into another pit and another pit and another pit. And if we just looked at this person's life, we would be broken. But that's not what the Torah says. That's not what it says. If you look at how the parsha begins, the beginning of the parsha gives you a little bit of an insight into how we understand the totality of the message that is being presented in this week's Torah reading. So it reads as follows: it says, "Vayihi Miketz," that's the name of the parsha. "Vayihi Miketz shnatayim yamim." It came to pass at the end of 2 full years. At the end of this, Pharaoh has a dream, we know, and he has a dream of his. There was the Nile. Out of the Nile came 7 cows, and then he had again the whole thing with the 7 sheaves of grain. And Joseph ends up interpreting these dreams. But the words over here are very clear. V'yihi miketz shanatayim yamim, and it was at the end of 2 years. Well, this is important. Whenever you see a verse begin with the words Vayehi, it's coming to tell you something sorrowful or something bad is about to happen. This is the end. Okay, at the end of the 2 years. Okay, so how do we understand it? Any other there's two ways of looking at this. The word shnatayim can be like a year, 2 years, right? But it also has the same word as shena, as sleep. You see, there's 2 kinds of people in the world. There's a kind of individual that will live life and will continuously do the same exact thing over and over again and expect different results, right? It's kind of like this. There's a friend of mine who was working at one of these hedge funds, and he was working there for 15 years. And there's another guy working there for 5 years. There was a senior manager that was coming to an end. He's getting out of his job. So what happens is that he ends up, they both want to vie. They both are vying for this guy's position. Okay, and each one makes the case as to why they should take over this senior manager's position. But the guy who was there for 15 years, he's like, listen, I have clout. I've been here for 15 years. Anyway, after a couple of weeks of deliberation, this manager comes back and says, the junior partner, he's going to get the job. So when the guy that was there for 15 years comes back to the manager, he's like, I don't understand. How can you do this? He's like, I've been here for 15 years. How could you give away this position to this little junior, little nothing? So he looks at him and he says, listen, he's like, you have really only been here for 1 year. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, I've been here for 15 years. He's like, no. He's like, you're here for 1 year and all you've done is repeat that 1 year 15 times. But this other guy that's been here for 5 years, each year is a new year. Each year was a new ability to grow and learn and become something bigger and greater. The Torah is telling us a very deep lesson over here. How do we think about our lives? You know why it's so sad over here? Chazal are telling us that when we look back at our lives, are we going to look back and say, I used every moment to grow, to become something bigger and more? Or am I going to be Shena? Am I going to be the guy at the end of life looking back and saying, I can't believe I slept through life, right? Or are you going to be the person that takes every single moment that we have and utilize it and allow it to achieve something greater? It was Benjamin Franklin who said that um, most people die on their 25th birthday, but they're not buried until they're 75. And what's he really saying? What does that mean? That most people die on their 25th birthday and they're not buried until they're 75? You got it. He's saying exactly what you think he's saying. He's saying that most people stop being creative after their 25th birthday. They've done their part. They've put in their efforts. They've went to school. They put in their time to try to figure out life and whatnot. And then they just stop. It's just a repeat. It's a comatose. They're part of what we call, again, the walking dead. They're sleepwalking through life. That's not living. Vehi miketz time. Everyone else, they go through that same exact phase. They go and they stop. Yosef was not that. Yosef is someone in a jail cell, locked away, with no hope of getting out, alone. He never gives up. He never stops believing. He's the only one out of all of anyone in the Torah, not Moshe, not Aharon, no one is called an Ish Matzliach. No one is called a guy who's successful. What allows this one guy, a puny, 17-year-old at the time when he gets thrown into this pit, what allows him to have this midah called Ish Matzliach? What makes him so unique? What gives him this superpower of being able to say that, wow, this guy's always accomplishing? And there's one very profound lesson that we should all learn from Yosef. And I think it's so profound that we actually read this right here at the beginning of the end, right? Endings and beginnings are so profound because you see, at your 25th birthday, that's not when things should end. It's when things begin. When we've pushed ourselves to the edge and we feel like there's nothing else to learn or grow from, that's the mistake we make. Reaching that point, that, my friends, is the diving board we're meant to dive off of, not retire. When we feel like we've hit a wall, when we feel like we're stuck and there's nothing left, I could just say, I'm going on vacation, retiring. Not so. That is where the journey begins. That challenge of finding a chidush, of something new for yourself, that's where greatness begins. Yosef lives in that reality. He's in a jail cell. It's impossible. There's no way he's getting out. And you know what he's thinking the whole entire time? God has a plan for me. I don't know how long it'll take. How long was he in there for? Machloket. How many years was this guy in jail? Locked away. He doesn't give up hope. He's like, no. He's like, I'm here because God wants me to be here for a reason. I'm here because I'm meant to go ahead and learn something. And therefore, I'm going to take these moments. I'm going to take this time I have right now, and I'm going to make something meaningful of it. I'm not going to repeat last year. I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to have a life of Shena, of walking through sleep. Instead, I'm going to have a life where I'm going to take every single moment and push myself beyond the veil of darkness, push myself beyond human reason, push myself beyond the doubt. And he never gave up hope. That's all we have. If Yosef in a ditch in prison, who was sold by his family, his brothers, who was sent around several times from one jail to another jail because he was in Potiphar's house, and then he's thrown into jail again. Like, it's just horrible. I would just cry and give up and say, I'm done. What else do you want from me? But Yosef sees every single moment as a moment that he's meant to learn from. That's why he's an Ish Matzliach. Potiphar sees it in him. He sees that here's a guy who doesn't give up. He doesn't stop. He's a guy who's always learning. Paro sees it in him also. Yosef's greatness is that he never stops dreaming. It's ironic that he's the dream interpreter. And I believe the reason why he's able to interpret all these dreams is because he lives in that world. He never stops imagining. He never stops telling the story. He never gives up. A child never gives up. A child always dreams. But as we get older, We beat those ideals out of ourselves. It was Shlomo Karlbach who once famously said that the difference between a child and an adult is that adults stop telling stories, right? And they stop listening to stories because we already know how it ends. We know we have it all figured out. But Parshat Miketz is not about that. Parshat Miketz is that if you want to live your life, if you want to live a life where you're able to overcome circumstance, where you're able to overcome the standard realities, then you got to be willing to dream. Yosef is that. It's interesting because the dreams that he interprets have a lot to do with how he sees himself. So when we look back and he's interpreting the dream of the baker, there's this beautiful idea that the baker ends up telling him his dream, and Yosef right away says, "Yeah, you're gonna die." How did he figure it out so quickly? Ready? This is the mashal. This is the story, the metaphor that helps us understand it. There is a famous academy in Greece, and it's one of these schools that teach you how to become an artist. And in a very short period of time, going into any one of these schools, you get a job anywhere. So they accept about 50, 60 applicants, and they come down and they meet with this head artist who's gonna test them and their painting skills. So they all come out into this arena, and he pulls out a canvas and he starts painting, and everyone's studying each stroke, each brush, each pigmentation, and how he's painting this canvas. And he's painting, it's what's beginning to look like a man holding a basket, right? And everyone's just blown away. They've never seen anything so lifelike. It's just so mesmerizing. And he's painting a man holding a basket of bread. And the bread looks edible. It looks so real that birds start coming down in the middle of the arena trying to eat the bread from the bread basket. So the painter stops painting, puts his brush down, and he looks at the audience and he asks them, "What's wrong with this painting?" And just no one knows. It's like, it looks perfect. And one guy, out of all those that came far lands to try to get into this practice, this school, says, "The problem with your painting is that the man does not look as real as the bread. The man is not lifelike. There's something missing in the quality of the individual over here. Because if the birds recognize the bread, why didn't they recognize the man holding the basket? It must be that there's something off with his expression of reality." And he was right. And this is what Yosef saw. He's like, how does a man carry a basket of bread? Why would birds come down unless the guy wasn't there? Right? Yosef is someone who lives in a reality where his persona, his identity is super clear. He's not walking around living life anonymously, just doing the same thing over and over again. He lives a life where his identity is beaming out of him. It's not an accident that on Friday night we give a bracha, we give blessings to our children, that they should, the boys at least, that they should be like Ephraim and Menashe, right? Why are we blessing our kids to be like Ephraim and Menashe? Because Yosef represents the greatest expression of what Yaakov wanted. Yaakov wanted to have children that lived in a world where they were able to live a life of spirituality and growth, a spirituality and depth, a life where they were able to achieve beyond the norm, beyond the regular routine of life, not allowing themselves to lean in on their natural talents, but individuals who recognize that real spirituality, real power, real growth means using every single moment for growth. That was Yosef. Rav Soloveitchik says that the Technicolor coat that he received from his father wasn't just a nice, article of clothing. It was an expression of Yosef, that he mastered these different personas, these different personality traits of being a guy who was sitting and learning and growing and spiritual, but at the same time, a man who was thinking about economics, a man who was thinking about resource. He was this broad vision, someone who was able to do anything and everything and never gave up, ever trying nothing. That was Yosef. You give a kid that level of inspiration, that understanding that there are no restrictions. There are There's nothing holding you back except for yourself. That there is no jail cell. There is no bore. There is no pit. It's how do you use your time? Vehi meketz shnatayim yamin. Are you going to come with your days? Right? Meaning that you've used every moment of your time meaningfully, or are you squandering them? Are you wasting them? Yosef's greatness comes from someone who recognizes the end. The end means that at some point things are going to change. People do this with the markets all the time, right? Those of you that are into stocks know that the futures are kind of difficult to predict, right? But if you were someone who had a little bit of hope and you put money into the markets 30, 40 years ago and you left it there and you picked not the best but just decent stocks, you did pretty well. And it's that idea that when people see red and everything is burning, everyone wants to sell. But we know there's a reverse psychology that the truth is when the markets are crashing and burning, that's an amazing opportunity to buy. I'm waiting for the markets to go down another 20, 30% so I could go back in and buy again. I'm waiting for that time. When it's green right now, Bitcoin, everyone's like, go buy Bitcoin. No, don't buy now. Wait until it's red. That idea that opposites are true, that this world is a world of lies, that this world is olam is ne'elam, it's hidden from us. The world itself is hiding a truth, that opposites are often true, that what we think we're running after that has value really has no value. And the things that we think, we'll take care of later, I'll do it later, those are the things that we should be taking care of. I got to be taking care of my health. I gotta pray with more kavanah. When am I going to finally understand what I'm saying? When am I going to make brachot? When am I going to really do all these things that I keep saying I'm going to do, but I don't have time to do? Those are the things that are important. Those are the real things we need to be investing our time in, not everything else. We live in a world that's upside down. For Yosef, it was clear. He expressed himself. He saw his world with very clear vision, very clear eyes. And maybe that would help us understand why it was so easy for him, or not easy, why he was able to walk away from Potiphar's wife. She seduced him. She was gorgeous. How does he walk away from her? How does he do that? How does he live in the most immoral country in the world, Egypt, where a gorgeous, handsome young man that is literally the second most powerful man in the country, not lose himself to the idols and the women of that world? And it's simple. Yosef was a dreamer. He wouldn't allow the mundane material things that the world was offering to distract him from what was real. He understood the value of time, that his time here was short. His time here was limited, but meaningful. He did not waste a moment of it. When you read the Parsha and you see everything that Yosef does, it's all time bound. He's always running. Everything about his whole life, it's against the clock. Even when he meets his brothers towards the end of his life, his father dies. He's got to make peace with his brothers. This guy's not sitting around. He's dealing with a country. He's saving them from starvation. He's fixing the economy. He's investing in the government. He's creating new procedures. The guy never stopped. And neither should you. And the only reason why we do is because we don't believe enough, because we don't dream enough. Dream big. Stop sleeping. Wake up. Don't hit the snooze button anymore, my friends. Today is a day to make it awesome. We're at the end of Hanukkah. Today's the last day. We have a few hours left before Hanukkah's gone, right? Tonight is Shabbat. That's it. Hanukkah's out. It's over. Today represents the darkest day of the year. Today is the darkness. And what ends up happening in the winter is that we get comfortable, real cozy, bundled up in our coats, in my heated car, in my heated seats, the heated steering wheel, right? And I'm comfortable, I'm good, right? And it's so easy to do the same thing over and over again. Just bet on things when they're going green. Do some reverse psychology, do some inner thinking. Are you the portrait of the baker holding a basket of bread where the birds are ready to come down? Are you part of the Walking Dead? Are you what Benjamin Franklin called someone who died on their 25th birthday and just waiting to be buried when they're 75? Do you want to be an ish matzliach? Do you want to be someone who's successful. Success means being you. Success doesn't mean being Yosef. Success means being yourselves. You know what you need to do. Stop wasting your time. Vehi in the kitchen of time. Get up. Now is the time. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom from the road. And may this Shabbat be a Shabbat of true clarity and depth, the recognition that each of you are a nuclear power plant of spiritual potential. The dreams don't have to end if you don't want them to end. Keep dreaming, keep believing, and even in the darkest dungeons on planet Earth, wherever they may be, you could see yourself a little bit longer. Hold on a little bit longer. You'll see at the end of that tunnel is a tremendous amount of light and potential waiting for you to draw that forward into the world. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you so much. My pleasure, Izzy. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Looking forward to seeing you all next week. Shai, as always, it's an honor. Wow, so lucky that you're here. Send my best to Sarah. Jen, Shabbat Shalom. We're gonna miss you. Shabbat, Alana, Roman. Looking forward to having you guys sometime soon. And everyone else, thank you so much for listening. Shabbat Shalom. Be well, everybody.
Thank you.
Pleasure.